Welcome. Welcome to the first episode of the Koch Korner, which is part of the Farmers Alley at Home series. The Koch Korner is an interview series where we hope to inspire, educate, and entertain you, hopefully all at the same time. And we want to hear from you. Please put your thoughts and comments in the comment section below and your questions. And be aware that you might need to go to streamyard.com/Facebook in order to do so. Before we start, on behalf of everyone at Farmers Alley Theater, we want to, and we have to, make clear the statement that Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter. From Trayvon Martin to George Floyd, there are far too many deaths that have come at the hands of racism, white supremacy, oppression, and inequality. We recognize this. We recognize that this country has a very difficult history with racism and that a change has to come. Farmers Alley wants to be a part of that change. We acknowledge the pain and suffering of the Black community. We are listening, and we want to be part of the solution. Our guest tonight is someone with tremendous insight into art, education, and affecting positive change, which is crucial right now. Vaughn Washington Jr. Vaughn is a leader in Kalamazoo in so many ways: education, arts, business, community relations, and more. Before we introduce Vaughn, I want to bring on my co-host. For this important conversation, I've asked my friend and Farmers Alley's Executive Director, Adam Weiner, to join me. Welcome, Adam.
Welcome, Jeremy. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here.
I remember when Koch's Korner was a little email you would send us, right?
That's right. Updates on the artistic side of the business, right?
Welcome to the 21st century with...
That's right. And actually, I'm in the corner of my basement, so I guess it's kind of...
It looks very nice, very colorful.
Thank you. Yeah. Some show posters here. So we should probably tell our viewers a little bit about, what's happening with the theater and what we're going to continue to do as far as content goes.
Mm-hmm. Well, we are so grateful that the stay-at-home order has been lifted here in Michigan, but unfortunately, as most people know and guess, that doesn't include indoor theaters, indoor spaces, even ones as small as ours. And in fact, unfortunately, the intimacy of our space does present some unique challenges due to distancing and such. So there are many things that we are working on. I know Jeremy and myself and my brother Rob and so many more folks are doing planning, doing scenarios, brainstorming, and coming up with a lot of different ideas of how to bring this community future entertainment, whether that's going to be brick or mortar in the space, or if that's going to be virtual, digital.
Or both.
Yeah, absolutely. So, you as I know, both you and I know that things are moving really fast. And goodness knows, who knows where we're going to be in a month, let alone 2 months or 3. But as soon as we know, the public will, you will.
Right. We want to get back into the theater. We want you back in our space. We do this for you, our wonderful audience. And so in the meantime, until we can open those doors, we're going to continue to do things online for you. So, keep watching.
Very good. Yeah, no, I love having things like this and be able to talk to leaders in the community. And it's, when was Vaughn scheduled to chat with you? It was a while ago, right?
Yeah, it was about a month or so or more.
Yeah. So
lined him up.
This is very fortuitous. And, we have a relationship with Vaughn as a community leader and as an artist. So I'm really excited to chat with him.
That's right. Well, let's bring him out here. We are honored and privileged to have him with us. We admire and respect him very much. He is a little background on Vaughn. Vaughn is the Executive Director of Community Relations for the Kalamazoo Promise and was formerly the principal of Kalamazoo Central High School. That will come in handy later in the interview. He has a bachelor's degree from Western State College of Colorado and a Master of Educational Leadership degree from Western Michigan University right here in Kalamazoo. He serves on many boards, including the Kalamazoo Community Foundation. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Vaughn Washington Jr. Hello, Vaughn.
Yeah, good evening. Hey, guys.
Welcome. Thanks so much for being here. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, we were just saying, Adam and I, that it was actually about a month or so ago that I asked you if you would be a guest on my little, interview series called The Koch Korner. And little did I know that there isn't better person for us to interview right now at this crucial and tragic time in our country's history. So thank you again for being here.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm always impressed with the creativity that between the two of you you come up with and have ideas that can kind of help move things forward. And what you've done at Farmers Alley is just tremendous.
Thank
I
you.
know it's a struggle over the time of the pandemic, and we're hopeful that when this subsides, that you'll continue to be able to put together the productions that you do that are so rich for our community.
Thank
Really
you.
do.
Really
So
appreciate it.
I know that, kind of feel like a third wheel here because I know Vaughn and Jeremy, I see you guys, you go off and you get coffee together and you have meetings all the time downtown. So it's, but I'm so glad to be a part of this because, I was familiar with your family and your father, but I didn't really get to know you until you joined us as an artist about 5 years ago in a production that we did called Clybourne Park. Play by Bruce Norris. Clybourne Park is interesting. There's a video going around now dealing with systemic racism and specifically talking about redlining and the history of that, which is basically what Clybourne Park is about. It's an unofficial sequel to A Raisin in the Sun about a family. It takes place in 1959 and 2009, right? It's easy to remember now.
Yes, Act 1 is in 1959.
59.
And the black family's entering basically an all-white neighborhood. And so they deal with that portion of our history. And then flash forward 50 years, right, in 2009, it's now more of an all-black neighborhood, and this white couple wants to build like a condo high-rise thing, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Very takeover. Yeah. Gentrification of the
We've got
area.
one of your former students saying hello, Vaughn. Somebody said, Brett, best principal ever.
That was really nice of them. I saw that. I tell you, man.
Vaughn, I don't know. Do you want to speak to a little bit about your experience with Clybourne Park at all and what that was like?
Well, yeah. You mentioned, Adam, that Jeremy and I will often have meetings and talk about various subjects while we're talking. But what's interesting is we've always had conversations surrounding things that would help improve the human condition and what's taking place even here today. We've talked about access for individuals who have been marginalized. We talked about diversity. We talked about helping to uplift individuals who have had barriers. These are the conversations that we have always had over coffee, and I've always appreciated that because then that meant Farmers Alley was concerned with these issues and wanted to make those things happen. So coming into Clybourne Park, Dewandra Lampkins, I remember getting a call from her. She tells me she's doing this wonderful show. There's a wonderful director coming out of New York, Owoye, and this is something maybe you want to audition for. So I remember auditioning. I had not been in a show in a long time. I did major in it in college at Western State in Colorado, but I hadn't been in a show in a long time and thought, I think I'll give it a try. I was just freshly back in Kalamazoo, and it was just an amazing experience. One, I wasn't familiar with the piece until I picked up the script and started looking it over, and then understanding that, as you mentioned, this unofficial sequel to A Raisin in the Sun. I mean, whoa, A Raisin in the Sun? We're talking about part 2? You have to be kidding me. So I was fortunate enough to land the role and then be able to be a part of what is really happening today. It went into 2009, but here in 2020, people are still having a hard time getting a place to live. People that have the same qualifications as many others, and then those who are really trying to make ends meet cannot find equal access to housing, not in this wonderful community that we live in and or throughout the nation. And these are issues that we want to address because this type of inability, this type of lack of access leads to a number of the things that people are frustrated about today and right now marching in the streets about.
That's right, especially when we have low wages and we don't have universal health care in this country. And there's all of that compiles and leads to an even more grim situation for many of our brothers and sisters.
It really does. It puts people, behind from the start. And, when you start in 8th place, if you will, it can be very, very difficult. And on the way, by the way, if you are starting from behind, then all of a sudden you find that there are people that are in front of you that really don't want to let you pass them. So you have to continue to work on that. tell my father that I use something he says all the time, and he says, no one likes second place. And if you think about that, you really don't like second place if you have spent all of your life in first place.
That's right.
So, and you do anything to keep your position. So therefore, it makes it more difficult for individuals to get access to credit, to get access to resources, to capital, to be able to move their lives forward. These things we are seeing play out in the streets right now as people are frustrated, those who have resources and those who do not. These protests that we're seeing right now are the faces of many people that we may not have seen, as I heard in an interview and listening to President Obama. They may not have been the same faces that were in a protest 5-10 years ago. And so, the work, Adam, back to your point about Clybourne Park, it was so meaningful to have jumped back into an opportunity for live theater, which I think is one of the most remarkable mediums that is going, to have that opportunity to jump back into live theater and then to be representing something that I feel so strongly about each and every day and hope that we can resolve in our community was just a great experience.
Well, there's a connection there, right, between arts and education, and I think that that's a good segue. All three of us come from families of artists and educators. My mom's a musician, and she was also a teacher. My dad was a teacher. Adam, and your mom, of course, and your stepdad. And Vaughn, talk a little bit about your parents and how you got involved in arts and education in the first place.
I remember being very young. My father was in the military. We lived in. I was born in Montana. I put that out there. That's always a shocker for people. Some people, how did you end up in Montana? Well, we were on the military base. So I was born in Montana. Before long, we were in Germany. And my father in the military at that time started to do some theater. I remember some shows that he had done. And I think there was a show, it was called The Bubble. It was just this amazing thing. So as a young kid seeing this, and it was a man that was in a bubble and what it meant to try to get out of this bubble. I hope I'm remembering that right. I'm sure he's watching. He'll correct me soon. But I remember that show and then watching the reactions of people as they were picking up on and going into this story that was being told right in front of us live. Mm-hmm. And then as I continued to develop a love for the theater, it was truly by watching my parents in the shows that they were doing. And to see them together doing productions was just huge. I remember at the University of Michigan when they were both there, and in school they were doing production and Tambourines to Glory. And my mother had one of the lead roles in that show. My father was the director of that show, and he put us in there. And I remember we were little kids on the street. And so we're little kids on the street with what would be our grandmother. And I'll never forget seeing my actual grandmother in the first row. And our grandmother Alice was in the first row. And I just remember seeing the tears on her face as she was just staring at us. Me and my sister, she wasn't watching the show. She's just staring at us in that emotion. And I have that same emotion evoked now when I see productions. I know what goes into a production, the passion, the work that goes behind trying to transform yourself into the characters and bring the story to life. So it's just been a remarkable ride in that particular sense for me.
I have been profoundly affected in the last 12 years of our existence by seeing how art can affect people so viscerally, right? Especially in doing a show where you're so close to each other, and it amazes me sometimes. I mean, it's a cliche that I get to hear all the time, like the study that when audiences are watching a play, their hearts beat in synchronicity, right? If that's even a word, synchronicity, I don't know, but it's a way to find our common ground in humanity. And that's something I read over the last few days, talking about everything that's going on. We have to find our common ground of humanity. And I am so grateful to be part of a business that helps to educate that, to display that, to help to heal that. So, I am glad to be part of something that helps reflect and shines a light on social issues. Absolutely. And things, everything.
Absolutely. So, Vaughn, and you're speaking of your father, and I'm remembering how he starred in our production of Fences. So we've had two generations of Washington men on our stage. But I believe your son is a basketball player, right? So we may not see that third generation.
He did some shows. You can imagine my father's done a lot of writing. He and my mother have put together many shows, and they had Von in some shows at one time. So Von third appeared in some things, mostly readers theater stuff. And actually, I thought he did quite well. So who knows? Maybe he'll find his way to it. But yeah, he was a college athlete, starting off at Western Michigan University on the men's basketball team, finishing at Quincy University, and then coached for 2 years in college basketball. He now has decided that he's going to go into the work world. He's working. He lives in Arizona. He and Sabrina have our first grandchild.
Congrats.
Sophia Francis, the middle name, is very special to us. Sophia Francis is 8 months old. And you can imagine, pandemic, no travel, unable to see grandchildren. That's a point of contention, but we're working on that. But thanks for bringing them up. And my sister, as you know, she's a professional actress. And so she went to the Theater Conservatory at Rutgers, has been in multiple productions, and still she works with that today.
We'll have to get her out here, maybe hire her one day when we finally open our doors again.
Oh, yeah, she'd come.
So Adam, let's tie it together. Von, how can arts in education help bring about positive change?
You know, the arts allow for a space of creativity, a place to take risks, chances, and just an opportunity to help people jump out of themselves into someone else's shoes and or someone else's life and experience that, and then bring that to other people. And in most cases, even if you're in a show alone, if it's a one-person show, you've got a crew, you have all kinds of other individuals that have to be involved with making a live production work. In that space, I just think the arts have been imperative. I mean, if all of this technology broke today, what we would have is live performance and live storytelling. And storytelling is what carried nation after nation, information, history through storytelling. And we know back the great griots from Africa, if you were the number one storyteller in the village, you were one of the most important people there was, because you're the carrier and the bearer of history for all of the people that you serve. This is imperative. And in our educational system, we need this outlet. We need the opportunity for students to have voice. And many times as adults, we have shut down student voice until it comes to a production. And you can see a number of things in a play. I mean, how many times can I tell you as a school principal that many of the calls I would get would be about the play we were doing? How are we going to do this? You know,
in your program, Kalamazoo Central's program, it was known for doing really,
absolutely. And we were challenged. One of the things that we had wonderful athletic teams. We had one of the most amazing mock trial teams in the nation. And one of the goals was also to have a theater program that would be second to none. And we wanted that. And we knew that with that, you could face some challenges. But we did some cutting edge shows. And those opportunities brought our community closer to reaching some of its goals to help all people in our community have the success and have the opportunities that they need through education. So they're linked like nothing I can explain. And it saddens me when sometimes those are the first things to go out of budgets, our arts programs, when we really need to be feeding them.
I think maybe we should draw a stronger correlation to emotional learning, right? Because you touched on something that I've spoken to before, which is that as an actor and theater in general, as an audience member, as an actor, putting yourself in someone else's shoes, right? It's so important, it's so crucial, and it teaches you about other races or cultures or topics or whatever. You put yourself in those shoes, and it breaks down barriers, and it alleviates fear and ignorance, and that's what drives the hatred in the first place. And it creates that empathy, right? And I think that that is what is sorely lacking in so many people, is that empathy, especially in this day and age. Would you agree?
I definitely do. You know, we're in a society now where people are having to look out for themselves, like nobody's business. You have to protect yourself. You have to watch it. Social media is something that can impact people every day. When many of our students in school, many of the frustrations that they had or the loneliness that they felt were things that they were experiencing through social media. So this whole thing, and I remember being in the school system when it started to come into play, social media, and people were starting to have contact with hundreds of people while being, you know, in one place or in a school or after school. So, you know, it is something that continues to be positive in some ways and extremely negative and detrimental in other ways. And I think that we have an opportunity, once again, and you talked about being in someone else's shoes. I'll never forget the first time I saw a show, and my mother was in the show, and in the show, you know, she was in a relationship with another actor, a man in the show, and I remember having to separate that from my family thing to say that they're involved in something else, and over the years you start to see that that's a real emotional thing, but it helps you to understand that they are portraying something that then evokes that empathy, that invokes, you know, we like a villain or we don't like a villain, or we like a hero, or we wish this thing would happen with people. So I do agree with you.
Excellent.
But we're short on it. We're short on some of that today.
Need the empathy. So let's talk a little bit about your current position as community relations, the executive director of community relations for the Kalamazoo Promise, right? So tying these together a little bit, you know, there's so many great things about Kalamazoo, and this community is wonderful, but the Promise is a big one, right? And put Kalamazoo on the map nationally, and even helped get President Obama out here, right, to give a commencement speech. Can you talk a little bit about what the Promise is and why you think it's so important?
You know, the Kalamazoo Promise announced in 2005, and just imagine the school board meeting. And you may have watched some school board meetings and done some things. Sometimes they're exciting, sometimes they're not. You know, more than anything, they're pushing the agendas of the schools and the things that are important for that. And Dr. Janice Brown comes up and says, "Hey, by the way, everybody that graduates has a college scholarship." I mean, what? You know, it was unheard of at the time. And you know, now here we are 15 years later, over $108 million has been put into human capital of the students that have come out, and they continue to go. And this is a promise by anonymous donors. They still remain anonymous to this day. They plan to remain anonymous, I guess, for all I know. And they plan and said it's going to be in perpetuity. So imagine being in a community where babies that are being born right now have the assurance that if they're in the school district, they live in the school district, meet a couple of criteria, that they will have a college scholarship. And we hear about the rising tuition rates and all those types of things right now. And we have been a model for a nation. I mean, we're aware of, depending on who you talk to, 200 to 300 programs that are in the name of promise across the nation, trying to do something similar. But we do believe that we are still the most generously funded scholarship program. And anytime you talk to anyone, any of our colleagues that are doing this work across the country, they will say right off the bat, we wanted to do what they were doing in Kalamazoo. And so it's just an amazing thing. It's an amazing opportunity to be a representative of that. Having been in the school system for the amount of time that I was, and now on this side trying to serve those students, making that transition into post-secondary education has just been remarkable.
Such a great statement. Go ahead, Adam.
You know, it's a thing of pride for Kalamazoo too. I think when I tell people around the country about the Kalamazoo Promise, many of them have never heard about it, and they can't believe it still. I mean, 15 years later, it's just, it warms my heart every time I think about it. So, yeah.
It's a bold statement. Who do we want to be? I mean, we have to talk about that, right? You know, as a society, but who do we want to be, and what do we value, and where do we put our investment? This is an investment in education. It's an investment in our children and our future. It just makes so much sense, and yet it's still so bold and powerful and shocking to some that it's even in existence. Where do you see it going, Vaughn? What's the future for the Promise?
Well, I think extremely bright. One of the things that I like to liken it to was, this announcement came out by Dr. Brown, anonymous donors, but it's almost if someone went into Bronson Park, one night at 2 a.m. and set it down and ran away from it and said, let's see what a community does with this. And really, that is kind of the charge and responsibility. Whether you really like it or not, you're responsible if you are here to absorb this and make sure that everyone that it comes across to and has this opportunity at this education and this barrier being removed, that they're able to utilize it. I see it going a great distance and doing wonderful things for our community, because so many people have said, bring the other assets of the community to bear to help these students to be successful in utilizing their scholarship. And that continues to happen and grow. Now, our community faces some of the most extreme challenges that many communities across the country face. We're watching that right now. We are no different. It is playing out. People are saying we are frustrated. We are angry. This cannot go on. It won't be tolerated, not in Kalamazoo with your scholarship, not anywhere. But we have long known that the scholarship is not enough. It is huge. Don't get me wrong, huge. But we know there are so many things. For a student who's graduating from one of the high schools in Kalamazoo right now, if they had difficult challenges yesterday, they have them tomorrow.
That's right.
Whether they have the scholarship or not. So what are we going to do as a community? And I will tell you now that I have been around several tables where people want to solve these issues. So you ask me where I see it. I see it as one shining beacon for a nation, as it has been in its beginning stages. And it will be great. And it will be great because it is promised forever. It is not a short-term solution. It's not throwing money at something. It is an opportunity for the community to craft itself in a way that says everyone cares, everyone will get these opportunities, and we're going to take care of those who have been marginalized and make sure that they have the same opportunity at success as everyone else. It could be a beautiful thing. And then, 15 years from now, I hope we're talking about some of those things being realized.
Absolutely.
One major event in the whole timeline, I guess, history, a highlight of the promise was in 2010, and we're coming up on the 10-year anniversary of the event that you were a major part of. Yeah, President Barack Obama gave the commencement speech at Kalamazoo Central High School on June 7th, 2010. 10 years ago, yeah, this Sunday. I'm sure you remember it well. I remember it well. Do we have a video?
We do.
Park video visit? Oh, should I
think we should show our viewers about that excitement.
Throw it to the tape. Let's see what goes.
Let's take a look.
As the principal of the high school, I get the honor of introducing our graduation speaker. After thinking about it for a while, I soon realized that maybe I should consult with someone that could help me formulate the appropriate words, and so I called my father. After all, I was introducing one of the most important people presently alive on the face of the earth. My father simply told me to say what was in my heart. To the graduates of the class of 2010, I present to you your graduation speaker, a man who each and every day faces some of the greatest challenges known to humankind, and he does it with the hope that one day, one of you will take his place and make the world a better place than it was the day of our graduation. It is with great honor that I present to you the Honorable Barack Obama, President of the United States.
Thank you, everybody. Please be seated. Hello, Giants. It is good to be here, and congratulations, class of 2010. Thanks to Principal Washington for not just for the warm introduction, but for his enthusiasm and his energy and his leadership and his nice singing voice. Thank you. To all the trustees, to the alumni, to the parents, grandparents, aunts, uncles, cousins, everybody who's been a part of this extraordinary place.
Awesome. I remember, like, I was just starting to date my soon-to-be wife that day, and she called. She was living in Detroit. She was coming to visit me, and she called, and she was like, I can't get anywhere downtown. All the roads are blocked. The president is here. What do I do? But man, what an amazing day.
We've got some tears. We got some comments from our viewers, and yeah, I got a little. I teared up a little too myself.
You know, Julie Nimitz just came in and said, "Cue the tears," and I'm telling you now, boy, it could happen. And also, you know, at that time, cue the smile on the face. I don't think that I've ever had a soreness in smiling as much, because I just didn't stop for the 3 hours of the graduation. It was just the most remarkable thing, and the several months that led up to it. But those students that put together the video, the students that wrote the essays, the students that then showed the world that Kalamazoo Central High School is a unique and distinct place on this planet, and one that wants to create change, just overwhelmed us all. So when I see that piece, not only do I have fond memories of President Obama gracing us, and the message was wonderful. For anybody who hasn't seen it, I hope that you've been able to, you know, let them, you know, cue everybody up. Go to it, just look at it. Look at the video one that the students made to be voted on through the many thousands of people that voted for Kalamazoo Central after watching it. But also President Obama's speech is just one to reflect on, remember. You can tell immediately that there was no other place in the world that he would have rather been at that time, and he said so. And you felt that when you were in his presence. And I think all of us may have had an experience where you've been in someone's presence that is so profound, and that they make you feel like you're the most important thing that is happening. And it was. And President Obama did that for us. And he treated the class of 2010 and the staff and everyone that was able to witness this, whether it was online or in person, to a real genuine moment of a powerful, powerful leader being right with the people and making sure that it was special. Their office demanded that it be like a good old-fashioned high school graduation. They made sure of that. They didn't want anything else. And so that was also special for us in planning.
Wow. It's very special. I'm still a little choked up. I saw some comments, some former students of yours. Kathy Muley cried. She's an artist and educator, and you made her cry. And we were actually talking about that very statement you just made, how we feel that with you, Vaughn, that you are one of the leaders, a profound leader in our community, but yet when you and I have coffee, you make me feel like I'm the most important person for you at that moment. So maybe a little bit of President Obama rubbed off on you, my friend.
Yeah, you know, I would take a little bit of that for sure.
I think we all could.
Listen to his words last night again, and you just feel when you listen to him that other people are listening. This is something, you know, it's in you. You feel like other people are listening. Stop what you're doing. Listen what the message is. Try to embrace it and see if you can do something to make change. And it's just been amazing. It's very kind of you to say the things that you're saying. You know, I love to sit down with you and so many in this community to talk about the advancement of individuals, to talk about change in systems, to talk about helping people and investing in human capital. So those conversations are great. We can have them all day long. And we want to continue to put some action behind those things.
Well, I think that goes to one of the questions I was going to ask you about what can we learn from President Obama's legacy. And I think that is part of it, right? That you and I, that everybody in the community has these types of conversations, and especially now more than ever. Would you agree? Is there something else we can learn from the president?
Well, you know, when you listen to him speak, he makes very complex things seem very simple. And I think one of the things that we can learn from that is that I don't know that that's such an extremely special technique that he has, but other than a perspective, that we have made this thing so complicated that we can't even say hi to our neighbors. And what is that? And sometimes it's even against what we feel. We can know somebody for a long time. Something can happen, a bureaucracy, something can take place, a policy gets put in place, and all of a sudden now we don't know if we can be friends with you or not. And so I think if we can learn anything from him is to step back, look at the path of somewhat simplicity, if you will, even though challenges are extremely complex. I don't want to indicate that some of the challenges we're facing aren't complex issues. That's not my point. But the solutions may be much more simple than some of the things that we are searching for. And it's really about being humane to each other. A lot of it is about being special to each other, treating each other special, and thinking about how you would like to be treated, and then passing that on. And he reminds you of that every time he speaks.
Makes sense to me.
And I think another lasting legacy is obviously President Obama's support of the arts in education, to kind of bring it full circle, and how he brought the arts into the White House many, many times and tried to disseminate that, and is a big advocate for that. So I'm glad that he's still speaking, and how I think he understands, like so many of us do, how art can, like we've been saying the whole time, can help us have the conversations that we need to have this day and age. The talkbacks that we have, the Q&As, the feedback that we get from audiences after they see a play is some of the best times. That's one of my favorite times to be in a theater, is like when people are coming out and they're talking, and maybe they're forming new opinions that they never had before. Maybe they're seeing something or a person of a different culture or opinion that they've never seen before, and they're getting a better understanding. And if we can bring enlightenment to just a few people, I mean, that's a good thing.
And that's one thing about live theater. I don't know that I've been in a talkback so much. It may have been one. I'm trying to remember what it was, but a talkback like in a movie theater. It's a different feel and experience. A lot of people could have emotion, but a lot of people are still on separate planes when they leave there. But you understand, in a talkback, people are asking particular questions, and in live theater, there a lot of times at the end of a story, there's a lot to still be asked. I mean, you want to see it again. How many times have you seen a show and you're like, I want to see that again. I think I missed a couple things. And a talkback sometimes fills in some of those gaps, and a lot of times it feels safe to be able to say some things while doing that, because it's facilitated by the person who directed it, and they can help sometimes bridge some of those difficult conversations. So I have noticed those talkbacks coming up more and more and more, and I think that's because there's some real good quality in that. It's a part of the experience now.
But I always get scared if your dad's in the audience for the talkback, because he is going to.
Yeah.
So what question he's going to ask.
Yeah. So most people are asking questions about the plot. What was the person thinking? This and that. And my father's saying, you should have walked over here. You should have been upstage. Bring that back around, and so on and so forth. So Adam, I am with you. I don't think I want to talk back if he's in the audience. It would be profound and great information, but it ain't for me. So
he's legendary. He's got so much experience and knowledge, and I want to sit down with him next time we have coffee. We should bring him on.
And I'll tell you, so there's two people that would be in that audience, and the other would be my mother. And my mother, while she's going to be honest with me, she's going to love me through it. I mean, you're wonderful. You did a wonderful job, and this and that. But then she will ask those profound questions like, now, why did you do that? Or why did this happen or something? So she's very interesting, but her insights.
I'll give you the notes after the show.
That's right. That's right.
Well, Vaughn and Fran, if you're watching, we love you and we miss you. We hope to see you soon. It's the conversations, I think, that you're talking about. Talking and listening are two of the most crucial things that we can do right now. We all want to help. We all want to become part of the solution. Farmers Alley wants to help dismantle white supremacy and racism in our own organization. We want to see others organizations in the community do the same, and there's lots of people that are looking for ways to do that. And I want to make sure that people know that there's so many resources. We've chosen tonight just to show a link to blacklivesmatter.com/resources. It's a great place to go for getting educated, actionable things you can do, petitions, make sure that you're voting, all of that. So please go there. There's also a way to donate on the main page of blacklivesmatter.com. So don't forget to do that while you're there. And these initiatives, right? Like I was thinking about, our producer, Tony Mitchell, brought this to my attention. He reminded me that President Obama started an initiative called My Brother's Keeper. And I think some of these initiatives or organizations or programs grow out of times of trouble or strife. Are you familiar with My Brother's Keeper?
I am. It was a fantastic program when it came into existence, and really, it's all about mentorship. And it was mentorship. It started off, I believe, with 6th graders and 9th graders, and trying to get those voices to be paired with those students, so students could have some student voice, but also hear from those who are out and had experiences and moving about the world. And this thought of student voice coming out and wanting to hear what students have to say and their creativity and stuff still needs to be met with individuals that have had experiences that can help you, avoid some of the pitfalls, and then therefore help guide you in some of the decisions that are being made. Not tell you what to do, but help give some guidance in what to do. So the mentorship is huge. And I know that there are several programs across the country. My Brother's Keeper had a great influence and impact in going in, and also that President Obama, a lot of initiatives, the leader has a significant impact on whether or not it's going to be successful or not. If they're continuing to push it, if they're continuing to support it. So that was huge. Along with this mentorship and this thought of programs, if you will, workshops, however you want to phrase it, some people, whatever word it is that you want to use that helps move people forward, a lot of people now are asking, what can I do? I didn't just make that up, so it's not profound thought. People are asking this. People of all ages, genders, everybody is asking, what can I do? We have seen a heinous portrayal right in front of us on more than one occasion. And now people are wondering, what can I do? What more can I do? And I think one of the important things to remember is that there are lots of people in our community that have been working in this space to try to help individuals move forward to avoid situations like this. And it's important that we don't forget that, because when something happens like this, sometimes we think the world stops. Nothing else is moving but this. But people are continuing the work that they have done. You look at the folk in the food pantries and the homeless places and the missions and places where they're trying to work with those who were already struggling before this hit. Not alone the millions of people now that became struggling, that were just making ends meet and had nowhere to go and had to turn to those same individuals that have been supporting folks forever. The answer of what to do is going to rely within you. It is going to be very hard to ask someone what to do if you are not reflecting on yourself and what you think your biases are, and if you are willing to eradicate them. If you are saying that you have no bias, we got a big problem. You got bias. People have biases, and we can just start there. But it's going to take a lot of self-work to try to figure out what to do. Once you have that work going, you'll be able to answer a lot of this yourself. You'll be able to identify inequities. You'll be able to identify injustice, and you'll know how to speak about it. So a lot of that's going to go on, but I got a lot of people that are, what can I do? What can I do? Even myself sitting here, Black male, wondering, what can I do? I've known people that have been in this space working for many, many years, and they wondered if their work had been for naught because of this incident. And we have to remind people, your work's not for naught. We're going to need it even more than ever.
I mean,
Yeah, I
wow,
mean,
that's
you said that wasn't your final word. Are you sure you don't get a final word for the show? Well, no, Vaughn, absolutely. Appreciate those thoughts. And I certainly am taking this time for reflection and introspection. And I just want to listen and learn. Absolutely.
that's been the best thing is being able to listen to you and have you share your thoughts and your experience and help our viewers do the same. And I hope that these wise words, as Farmers Alley Theater just commented, are really sinking in, because these are the first steps: listening, seeking to understand, keeping an open mind, looking to people like Vaughn Washington Jr. for some guidance, and we really appreciate it. And I don't think there's a better way to end this interview than with that wonderful, wise monologue. So thank you, Vaughn, for being here with us tonight. We are profoundly grateful. Adam, thank you for joining me and co-hosting. I want to thank our producer, Tony Mitchell, who did a wonderful job and helped put this together.
Tony, pop in. Say hi.
Hey.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you all. Very wise words, Vaughn. You're a great principal. Vaughn was my principal all through high school. I graduated with his son. And as all my friends commented, like the experience of having Obama show up and being in the band playing like 50 feet away from him, like I will forever have that in my memory. And my partner, Emily Hazel, graduated in 2010 and got to shake his hand. And it's a very profound, and especially 10 years, knowing that happened 10 years ago, it weighs heavy on my heart right now. And I'm very happy to have had that experience. So yeah, thank you for talking.
Well, thank you. Thank you for what you brought to the school and the things that you're bringing to the community now. Your leadership is insurmountable. I'm sure people are asking you, what can I do? And this is an opportunity for us to try to provide answers, but also to try to help people understand the work that needs to be done within themselves. Mm-hmm. And then we'll have to do that together, because really what you don't want to do is tell someone to work with themselves and then say, I'll see you in a week. Mm-hmm. It's going to have to be, do we need to work on this together? Do we need to do things? Because we all need work. Yep. We all have work to do. Mm-hmm. So I hope that we see that in this community. We see some healing along with some changes in practices and policies to make sure that people are not abusing any form of their power and or imposing their will on others, and that we're uplifting people.
Yep.
Amen. Tony, thank you so much. Not only a great producer, but an artist, a musician, a graphic designer, a composer. He wrote the music for our production of Curious Incident of the Dog in the Nighttime. So Tony, you're a very valuable member of the team, and we thank you.
Bakes a mean loaf of bread. I don't know. Listening last.
Jeremy, somebody asked about Susical musical.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. There was a big question about your cameo in Susical the musical.
I was Vlad Vladikov.
Oh boy.
Vlad was not the good one in the show. But I rollerbladed across the stage twice and just said, it may have been one of my finest moments on the stage, but I appreciate they wanted it to happen, and I appreciate that.
President Obama said you have a lovely singing voice, so maybe we should have you roller skate and sing when we finally open our doors.
There we go.
I'm all in.
We finally open our. Sorry, go ahead, Jer.
No, I was just going to go to the two quick pieces of information regarding Farmers Alley at Home series. First, there will not be a trivia event this Saturday, the 6th. The next trivia event will be on Sunday, June 28th at 8 p.m. Next up, in fact, is this Sunday, June 7th at 8 p.m. We celebrate Pride Month with a special Pride version of our flagship program, Broadway Battles, hosted by our friend and Queer Theater Kalamazoo Artistic Director, Connor Koch. He will be joined by guests Dwight Trice, Hal Hobson-Morse, who are friends and veterans of countless Farmers Alley productions, and they will be joined by Megan O'Callahan, who played Medium Allison in Fun Home, last summer, and there's the poster for that. It should be a very fun and also poignant conversation with questions such as, who is the most memorable LGBTQIA character in Broadway history? Join us this Sunday at 8 for Broadway Battles Pride Edition, live on Facebook, Farmers Alley Facebook and YouTube channels.
Awesome.
Adam, what were you going to say?
Oh no, I was going to say what you just said. Just say, look, we got a lot of great stuff, great lineup for this Sunday, and yeah, we will. I look forward to continuing the work and continue to find that common ground of humanity. Absolutely.
There will be more Tech Tuesdays, more Koch Corners, more Broadway Battles. We continue to try to provide some content and some entertainment for our viewers, but nothing's more important than this conversation tonight. This was very enlightening and profound. And again, I thank you all for being here with me tonight. On behalf of everyone at Farmers Alley Theater, and in the spirit of creating art and theater, which is always collaborative, let's all work together to be a part of the solution and become the change that we want to see. Good night.
Well said.